Welcome back to the Boss Mode walkthrough series. This is Chapter 10, Imperious Woods on Boss Mode. The Boss Mode mechanic here is that you can only use fire heroes. So this one here tends to be a little bit more challenging, even though there is a good number of nature heroes in there. You can see I just deleted a previous red run that I tried, and I tried a bunch of different variations of these red teams. If you look right in the center of the screen, my Ember Sanguine is just not up to snuff as far as healing. So what I ultimately went with on this team here is to go with a heavily armored team instead. So ultimately what I'm banking on here is for Torchy to hopefully do some epic attacks and honestly just dish out more damage than the other guys. Furnace is good because he has a passive buff for other red heroes. And Squinch is just overall not too bad. He's armored, so he can dish out some decent damage to those guys. Really what you need to do, though, is to protect your team. And so that's really why Furnace is along. Honestly, because I don't have a healer and he can only be healed by Daggerin anyways, I'm expecting Furnace to die in this. And if you choose this team, you have to be kind of expecting that somebody might end up dying. A well-placed provoke attack with Astrid could definitely help. But this dungeon is really going to be based heavily on whether or not Torchy gets some epic attacks out there. So we saw this first room. Torchy did a good job of getting us started in the right direction. Basically saved me from having to taunt with Furnace, which is good. The longer you can save those taunts, the less you have to worry about them coming up on cooldown. So. But really, a little bit of RNG plays a factor here as well. You want to try and avoid these fast heroes. Fortunately, Torchy can take them out. Even if you don't kill them, you can silence them. He has his silence attack, even though it's not elementally advantaged, does a ton of damage. So don't be afraid to use that in a pinch. But basically, the RNG that is involved here is you want to hopefully try and get more nature enemies than water enemies. That's one thing. Otherwise, it could be tough sledding, and hopefully you don't get too many fast heroes. If you end up with just one, usually Torchy can take them down. But so the main thing is hopefully they don't hit hard enough where they get the full attack in on Furnace. Anybody that knows and uses Furnace knows that it takes 5 full-powered hits to kill him because of his abs of steel. Well, if they're not full-powered hits, he can obviously take more than 5 hits, but we have to essentially come up with a plan to make sure he stays alive. And the only way that he's going to stay alive is by not taking as much damage. So definitely rune up your Furnace for as much defense and health as physically possible. Other than that, hope for some nature enemies. We're getting kind of a mixed bag here, about 50-50 with each one. Again, so we're using Torchy to kill the fast ones, and then from there, shouldn't really be too challenging. As said, depending on where you fall with a taunt, occasionally a provoke with Astrid is a good option to just keep them alive a little bit. I found, for the most part, when you're using teams that you're not normally used to running, like this one here, anytime you get those abilities up, even if it's the boomerang shield there, even though there's only 2 guys, go ahead and use the abilities. I've kind of said that in other videos as well. It's like you have to basically focus on killing guys and not so much about am I conserving the right abilities and such like that. So do the right thing and try to secure those kills. So like in this instance, if I would have used his skill there, it probably would have killed him. Fortunately, I had enough guys going on their turns where I didn't need to kill him directly with Squinch, but keep that in mind. So finally got a fast one, but nature. Torchy should kill her pretty quickly. Realistically, I probably could have went with a basic attack and hope for the epic there, but really I was looking to just secure the kill. Alright, so here comes, you can see me looking at the skills. I'm contemplating whether or not I want to provoke one of those. It's probably not a good idea to provoke either of the nature ones, so I was ultimately determining if I could have killed the pig guy, which I don't have a ton of attack on Astrid, so I was not really sure what to do there. We see Torchy coming through again with his attack, so that's pretty handy. Anytime a red against blue and you can kill them in one hit, that's obviously good. So I've ruined my Torchy pretty heavily towards attack and crit. So obviously he's not going to crit against those guys, but All things considered, we got to the end basically with what we wanted. We didn't have Furnace die, which is good, because now he still has his taunt up. So that's good. Even though we know that the Sume is going to remove it with his Soul Shred if he gets that off, so it's a matter of determining what are we actually going to do here. And so we know the Sume is going to be hard to hit. We know that the Demon is going to be hard to hit as well. So um, honestly, be ready to use the Revive Potion. It's probably going to happen. But don't be afraid to use more than one friend hero too. Anytime you get to these boss matches, in the boss mechanics rather, if you're using these teams you're just not used to using, sometimes it's better to just use two or sometimes even three friend heroes, secure the 3-star, and move on. So I ultimately chose to go with Echo for a couple of reasons, just because he ups the critical chance, and I really, really, really want to hit that demon guy. And also, if they do a melee attack, it's possible that they're going to get shocked. We've seen what shock can do with this one on the normal mode. So if they can both get hit with boss poison or boss frostbite, that's only going to help our cause. But honestly, it's all about surviving the first attack from the blue Sume, because he's going to do a ton of damage due to the elemental advantage. So we see we got kind of terrible, terrible luck with Kozar there, and that doesn't happen too frequently. And there's not too many dungeons where I get up to the point where I'm contemplating using yet another friend hero, but the way that it was looking, it didn't feel right to me as far as where this was going. So um, combustion is a good attack here, even though it's elementally disadvantaged. It still reset his energy, which is pretty handy. So basically we're down to Squinch now, and hoping to get a hit because he's got two debuffs, which actually helps, and now he's got the shock. We didn't get any of the debuffs on him, but with him being shocked, that's also extremely helpful, because we know that if they spread that boss poison and the boss frostbite, it realistically should be lights out, and we can afford somebody dying. That's not the end of the world because we do have our revive potion. Um, but it doesn't look like we got the buff that we wanted, or the debuff that we wanted. So we lost Furnace, which I said a few minutes ago that I was expecting. Honestly, if he gets through this entire thing without dying, that's pretty impressive. The fact that he got to the boss fight was actually pretty good. So um, now it's just a matter of kind of seeing this thing through to the end, and that's kind of what I was saying before. It's like where we're at, and red against blue, it just, if he uses Soul Shred, it's gonna tear this entire team apart, and that's part of what I was concerned with. Even though he's boss frostbite, if he does Soul Shred, he's probably gonna do some serious damage, especially if it hits Torchy because he's not armored. So that's ultimately what I was worried about here when running this one. So he's dying, but slowly. Oh, so the combustion, that's why he never did the Soul Shred the first time. So with the combustion, again, that should have did the energy reset, and that's why he hadn't been hitting it. So the level of risk here is actually pretty low then, now that I think about it. And so just maintaining that taunt and then slow playing him, and he goes down. So that's the real benefit of having Furnace, is he doesn't get to do Soul Shred on your entire team. So if you have any suggestions for the other fire teams, like I said, if you can have your Ember Sanguine survive, she might be beneficial, but it kind of seems like Furnace is the way to go on this one. So let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you for the next section. Thanks.